Record. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the June Mentoring Webinar Series. Today, our topic is grief support through peer mentoring, and our guest speaker is Sarah Fedorston. She is with Kidzcope, and I have a little bit more information to share with her. All right, so Kidzcope is a program of Wichita Children's Home. She is the program manager. She has a bachelor's degree in early childhood education and is finishing up 2 master's degrees in clinical mental health counseling and school counseling. Prior to coming to Kidzcope, she was a teacher for 5 years, and she taught kindergarten through 3rd grade, 4th and 5th grade English language development and drama. She is a certified grief-informed professional and absolutely loves working in the grief field. All right. I will go ahead and let you take it away, Sarah.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Well, first, I want to say thank you to everyone for hopping on today. I'm excited to be able to have some conversations about Kidzcope and kind of what we do, and also the things that we offer within our program. As well as some different supports for supporting youth or families when it comes to having a loved one who died in their life. So to kind of just begin, we're going to kind of go through a couple of things. We're going to go through a little bit of just who we are, our background. I have a short video, some just general pieces of information, how our intake process works, volunteering, and then how we can really get into and support, grieving children, and just some basic information on that, as well as if we have time to do a quick room tour. So I'll go ahead and get started. So like you heard, I am Sarah. I'm the program manager here. I have, you kind of already heard a little bit about me, but I'm essentially behind the scenes. I do a lot of administrative work. I'm the point of contact for volunteers. All that good information. And then Cassie Rice is our grief professional. And so she's the one who does the majority of our intakes, and she's generally the first contact with families when they come through. She's working with some ambiguous loss, has been trained in it, which is essentially any loss that's not due to a death. Her background is she's at Curtis for about 15 years, and then she also has some former foster care work experience, and now she's here. And so with Kidzcope, we are the only 2 employees, so it's a little bit smaller, and then our groups are actually run by our volunteers, which we call Grief Companions. And so we'll kind of get into a little bit about what they do. A little kind of just brief background about Kidzcope. It started the idea started in 1998 when there was a Wichita family coping with their father, the kid's father and the husband's unexpected death. And there wasn't any area in Wichita that supported children's grief in like a group setting. So the mother brought the children to Solace House in Kansas City, which has a grief program up there. In 2000, they created 3 Trees, is what it originally was called, a nonprofit that provides free grief support services for children and families. In 2010, it rebranded to Kidzcope Inc., Hope for Grieving Families, to kind of help people better understand what work they were doing. And then in 2018, Kidzcope Inc. became Kidzcope and was acquired by the Wichita Children's Home, which is who we're underneath today. All right. I want to show this brief video. Let me know if you can't hear it. Were you able to hear anything?
No sound coming through.
My mystery too. That's okay. I prepared for this. We're going to jump to this video. This video just does a really good job at explaining everything that we do. And so that's why I want to go ahead and do it. Let's try it this way. Okay, maybe we're not because I can't even hear it on my end. So, okay, that's okay. We'll just adapt. So,
Is there a link you can share?
okay, that's okay. I'll pop up. I can send it out. It's a great video if you have some time to take a look at it. It is also on YouTube. And so if you Google Kidzcope, that video will come up. And it's one of the first ones on there. And so it just does a great job of kind of explaining our program as a whole. And so just some basic information. So we are a nonprofit. All of our services are free of charge. We are providing families grieving the death of a loved one, and it's specific to death. That is currently the main service that we offer. They also attend with a caregiver. So a grown-up does attend with their child or the grandchild, whoever that child is to them, because Kidzcope is very much a family process. We take ages 3 all the way to 18 in our youth rooms, and then we have our adult room, which is 19 and older. All groups follow a set curriculum that's based off of evidence-based practices and just current grief studies. Youth rooms participate through a variety of play, conversation, and what I like to call metaphorical artwork, while caregivers are learning skills such as how to become resilient caregivers. So we're teaching them how do you model healthy grief, how do you have conversations with your child or your grandchild. Maybe now you're in care of your niece and nephew and you're trying to figure out how you're going to go about becoming the more parental role as opposed to the aunt and uncle. And so we're teaching them the skill sets to be able to feel comfortable to talk as families. One of the key pieces as well is that we are a support group. We are not therapy. So there are no licensed clinical staff at Kidzcope. However, there are, we do have trainings that all our volunteers go through, and they're trained through us to be able to run the groups. And the other thing is that Kidzcope is the only children's bereavement center serving the South Central Kansas area. And so the next closest one that would be in a similar format is actually in Kansas City. And so that's kind of one of the unique things about it. This is just a brief look at our intake process. When we have families express interest, or a lot of our referrals come from schools or other local organizations, hospice centers, things like that. They essentially just need to give us a call or send us an email. It's just a pretty quick 5 to 10 minute phone call. We're just getting some basic information from them. And from there, they'll get scheduled to come in person for 45 minutes to an hour. And then they'll be placed into the next available group, which is anywhere between a 2 to 3 month wait, depending on what time of year it is. As of right now, we don't run any groups during the summer or between Thanksgiving and New Year's. And so that sometimes can add to the little additional time in between the groups. We're looking off of Harry and Webb. We are in Wichita. And so there's some kind of basic address there and some my direct email as well. So people are more than welcome to reach out through our phone or either of the emails to get in contact with us. Now, our grief companions or volunteers, they are truly the heart of our program. They are the ones who are going to be in the groups. They are running the sessions. They are with the kids. They're with the adults. Each of the groups are broken up into specific age levels. And so we have these different age groups is essentially early childhood education. Then we've got basically second to third graders, fourth to fifth graders, middle school, and high school. And so those groups, they're There's usually no more than 6 kids, so it's a very small, tight-knit group. Our grief companions do have to commit for the 8-week session. However, it's one of the more unique programs, in my opinion, because when they are volunteering through us, you really see a difference between the first week and the 8th week. And that's not something I feel like you always will typically see, especially working with youth in this type of environment. Like I said, they do training with us, they do training with the children's home. They are really in there to help just essentially lend a guiding hand, providing support, encouraging them, validating their feelings. We're providing a safe environment. We are not faith-based, and so all of it is going to be free from any spiritual beliefs on death and dying. And then we are also going to be encouraging them to, really help them learn these new skills or these new behaviors. And they do that through multitudes of different arts and crafts and discussion-based activities. And so what we have next is just some facts of grieving children. Children's grief comes in spurts. It can last longer than adult grief. They're often called forgotten mourners because, when someone dies in your life, a lot of times the focus is on the adults are themselves processing their grief. And oftentimes they might not, be thinking about the child grieving, especially if that child is young. I'm talking, 3 years old and below, or maybe even 5 years of age. And so those kids, every age group is going to grieve in their own specific way. They might not understand it at an intellectual level, but they're going to at least have a general idea of where, like for example, under three and under are going to perceive that there's somebody missing, especially if it's a parent or a sibling. They'll be able to perceive the emotions, maybe the anxiety or the sadness that a caregiver is giving. Older kids are gonna, as you continue on, they'll slowly start understanding it more. They're gonna need clear explanations of what happened at an age-appropriate level. Our 9, 10, 11-year-olds oftentimes will become a lot more intrigued by the details of the death. That's something we see a lot. We also see kids who are thinking that they're going to be the next person to die. And so that is a very common belief within especially the 8 and 9-year-old age range. They believe that death is contagious. So within the groups, we're really being able to provide some skills for them, some coping skills of providing different ways to have conversations, and at the same time working with the adults to be able to come back and speak with their children about, just simply about the person. Sometimes something as quote simple as saying the person whose died name is very challenging to do. We have children who sometimes will re-grieve the death as they develop, and that is something where Kidzcope is not a one-time attendance. We do have families who will come back at other times sometimes the child might have moved through a different developmental stage. They might be processing things a little bit differently within their grief. They're more than welcome to come back. And we also have kids who are grieving the death of, it can be a sibling they never met. There is still that death process that, they're still grieving that inability to be able to know it. And they're probably also still picking up on feelings of their caregiver, especially in a situation like that. Oftentimes, as adults in general, not just parents, but as adults, we try and protect kids by not showing our grief, by not wanting to cry in front of the children, by not wanting to kind of express that side. However, it's extremely healthy to be able to model that healthy grief. They're going to be modeling their grief, the grieving process, especially if they've never been through it, off of that adult that they're seeing. And so within the resilient caregiving room, we're teaching them how do you model that? How do you show that? Because if you're hiding the fact that you are crying, kids can perceive that as you're hiding it, so that's bad, so I shouldn't be crying about it. And so we do a lot of discussion about those thoughts and ideas. Some children tend to act out. This is very common. Grief is not, especially with the younger ages, they might not have the words to verbalize what they're feeling. They might not be able to even identify what they're feeling. And so there are times where in the beginning of our group sessions, we're discussing, what are the different feelings that you might be seeing. There's a thing called the anger iceberg, where a lot of times with youth, there is the overall anger, and then underneath is where all the other feelings are. It might be, might be regret. It could be, of course, sadness. It could be guilt. All of these things fall underneath that anger umbrella. And so kids are often going to act out. And especially if they're in school, they're going to be able to, often will have youth who come through who've had behavioral problems at school because of the grief. And so it's just simply really important to know that there's not only one way to grieve. Sometimes there's also, we have children who don't show their grief visibly. They might not cry. And it might be something that we will have families who are very concerned about it, but it's just how some kids are processing their grief. They need to be able to handle it in their own way. And like I said, they might not show it to people who are close to them. A couple of pieces of information. One of the key things that we recommend for people to go support their community or their group is to make family connections. It's really important, even whatever field you're in, if it is in the school system, if it is, at another nonprofit, making that initial contact with the family, especially if that information has been provided to you, and doing a just quick check-in with them, see how they're doing. We like to call it grief fog. Oftentimes, when there is a death, there is that fogginess where there's just a lot going on. You're, wanting to help your kids or grandchildren, whoever they are to you. You might want to be, you're also probably planning a funeral. There's a lot of different topics, a lot of different aspects that come into this general topic. And so it's important to follow back up with the family because they can forget or they might just have so much going on that they might not know the initial resources that they're going to need at that moment. We always recommend in-person meetings. It can be very helpful, especially when someone is going through the death of a loved one. Being able to sit down face to face can help just really anchor in and have conversations without the other things kind of going on. And also, of course, referring to different services in the area that could support. So, of course, Kidzcope, like I said, we do serve all of Southern Kansas. And so anyone in the area who needs our services is able to simply give us a call. That's the first step. And then it's also okay to know that some families might prefer you not to help, and that's okay. Sometimes, with the topic of death, it's one of those things that everybody is connected by, but it's also the one thing that everybody has very different ideas about, different processes of grieving. And so it's okay to also, give them the time, let them know that if they do need help or other resources that they can reach out. And kind of like I said earlier, it's also when you are reaching out, just kind of being aware. Like I said, death is different for everyone. I can guarantee you that everybody in this webinar right now and everybody who's going to watch it in the future is going to have a different take on death or the grieving process, or even, just different traditions or practices going on. It's important to take that time to check in with that family and know that it's okay to check in with them. Sometimes we might avoid or not want to interact because we don't want to offend, or just because grief and death is uncomfortable. It's okay to ask questions, watching out for assumptions. and just being kind of observant and aware of your own responses. Because the thing about grief is that there's all these different behaviors that can stem from youth specifically, which then trickle into every other part of their life. There's secondary losses that come from the death, especially of like a primary caregiver, or the family is other grown up now a single parent. Are they going to have to go live with grandma? Do they have to move states because, you know, maybe aunt and uncle who they're going to live with lives across the US? It's those other secondary losses that you also have to be aware of when kids are, or just when families are going through the different, going through a death. I just want to briefly go over some typical grief symptoms and behaviors you're going to see in kids. Often they can retell events about their loved one. Some kids are very, very open about it and will openly speak about what happened, even if it is what we would consider a stigmatized death, like death by suicide. Their child could still feel that loved one present in some way, and they might also speak of that loved one in a present tense. Oftentimes at home, they might be struggling with sleeping, especially if they're having dreams about their loved one. They might not be able to concentrate at school. They also might appear to feel nothing at times. And it could also be, you know, that preoccupied with death or excessively worrying. So that's, like I said a little bit earlier, especially between 8 and 9-year-olds, sometimes older, sometimes younger, they might get really concerned that death is contagious, that, oh, my mom died, and so I'm going to die next. And so those are some of the things that we work through at Kidzcope. So that way we're trying to provide this family and this youth a way to be successful in every aspect of their life. We also, just briefly, touching on shame and death, I just want to say, you know, as we all know, death is uncomfortable. I like to call them the 3 Ds, death, dying, and dead. They're awkward to say. They're uncomfortable to hear. It's one of those things that we have, you know, become accustomed to not saying those words. Oftentimes when working with youth, we might say euphemisms like passed away, or they're in a better place now. And especially when working with youth, it's okay to say those more concrete terms of those 3 Ds. It's okay to say that, and it's also tends to be encouraged because of especially the younger ages. If you're saying something about how, you know, their special person passed away, the younger ages can perceive that as a temporary thing. As they might say, oh, well, they passed away, which means they could come back. Whereas, you know, when we're talking about, you know, death, it's something that's final. It's something that they might not understand that finality in the moment, but it helps perceive that idea more so than euphemism, like passed away. Adults might cry or react differently when children speak about the death, which goes back to modeling the healthy grief. It can cause kids to feel like they need to bottle that up or not show their emotions. They might say, you know, I'm fine, even if they're not. And we want to be able to encourage those conversations to be held, especially, you know, when not only if they're just attending Kidzcope, but also, you know, the other 6 days when they're not. So Kidzcope does meet once a week on either a Tuesday or a Thursday for 8 weeks from 6 to 7:30 p.m. in the evening. And when the caregivers leave, they're given a note that provides information on what each of the kids did in each of the age rooms, and it also gives them some discussion questions because we encourage them to find 10 or 15 minutes to take a seat and have some conversations about, you know, maybe that night. And with the discussion questions, it's really, they're very tied into the themes for each night to be able to provide that. Additionally, we bake fresh homemade chocolate chip cookies every session. And so the scent kind of fills the air, fills rooms. Kidzcope's a very comforting, welcoming environment. It's not, the rooms are themed. I'm hoping I'll be able to get my video to play at the end. And so that's kind of, we want them to feel like they're in a home-like environment, and feel safe to be able to talk to other kids and other grown-ups. Some different ways that you can help support youth. Noticing that behavior stems from something, regardless of what you're working with, who you're working with, what population, whether it's foster care, whether it's in the school system, whether it's something entirely different, taking a look and maybe asking the questions about if they've had a death. Sometimes when kids come to you, you might not know that information, and it might not also be one of the immediate questions that you're going to ask. But that information can really help if they, say, yeah, sometimes you'll find out that their dad just died, or, they just had to move here because they were living with grandparents and now having to live with somebody else because of a death. And so all of those things then trickle down into the behaviors that you can see. It's important to be proactive. So depending on the situation, letting pertinent people know, working with other parties for modifications for that youth. Modifications don't have to be complicated. If you're in a school setting, providing, maybe extra time on tests, or we have like wobble chairs, for example. If you're in like an after school program, how else can you support that youth there? Do they need a little, a time to say, hey, I need to take a break. I need to, take a step out. I need to stand up and do my work. I need to move around for a little bit. Those different things can all help that child be successful in the environment you work in. Additionally, of course, it's important to provide that safe and comfortable environment. It's okay to, self-disclose certain pieces of information, speak honestly without judgment. Oftentimes we've had groups who come in and they realize that, their volunteer who's running group, their dad maybe also died. And so it's okay to, to self-disclose some of that. And it's okay to, have conversations about, grief is hard. And it is a process and it takes time, and that's okay. And it's really important. Kidzcope as a whole it really just provides the community to connect with other kids and families who are going through something similar. Because if their friends or other people they know, they might not have had a situation like that. So it's really providing a safe environment for kids to talk about it and to talk about their death or their loved one as much as they want, in a place where other kids and other adults are going to have some sort of understanding. And then, of course, referring to us, we want them to be successful wherever, home, school, community, work. We want the whole family unit to be able to continue to grow and to continue to process through their emotions, and to simply maybe just be able to sit down at the dinner table again. Whatever that may be for that family is what we're trying to support. Okay, I'll play it. There's no sound, so you can take a look. I'll do a little voiceover. So this is our main space when you enter in. We have the chalkboard walls that families write on. We have our intake room, which is right here. That's where they're going to sit down. We're going to have some conversations. We're going to, ask, is there anything that you want your volunteers in the rooms to know? Like I said, each of the rooms are themed. We have our ocean room, which is ages 3 to 6. This is what it looks like inside. They all work together to create group values. This is our enchanted forest, which is going to be ages 7 to 9. The younger two rooms, this room and the other room, we do some puppet theater play. We do a lot of structured play. They travel through this little brief map as they learn different topics, maybe different coping skills. This is our main space where we bake our chocolate chip cookies. Our wall back there is what we consider our impact wall. It has ornaments that families have created. This is going to be the fort room, which is for ages 10 to 12. Like I said, there's no more than 6 kids in each room, so it's very small, a tight-knit group. Provides a space that's comfortable to have some conversations. This is our camping room, which is ages 12 to 14. And then our last room is the winter room, which is ages 15 to 18. Well, I guess it's our last youth room, I should say. And so in the rooms, they all have a safe word. So if they need to take a step out or take a break, they can. And then this is going to be our caregiver room, which is for our adults. So that's all I have. So I'd love to answer any questions that you might have.
Hello.
Oh, you go ahead, Lenore.
Okay.
Okay, you know what? I solved the problem. I can't hear anything. Mysterious.
Say, can you hear us okay?
No.
No?
Sorry, y'all. I don't know what happened. This is curious.
I say, can everyone else hear me?
I can hear now. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that check. All right. Go ahead, Lenore. What's your question?
Okay. So first I want to say, great job. But maybe the parents' room or the caregiver's room should have some color in it. Those children's rooms are beautiful and, you know, so inviting. But my question to you is, do you have information that you give out to teachers that that help them to understand, maybe not that any case is, you know, the best case, but that just helps them to understand a little bit more? Because as a teacher, I had 5 kids that had deaths in 1 year, and I was never given any information or anything to say, how can we handle this the best? And it was just, you know, roll of the dice day to day.
Yeah. No, we do. We do have information that we can provide. Depending on where you are, we also will go out to schools during professional development sessions. We'll come out during new teacher orientation or just teacher orientation in general. We're more than happy to also set up a Zoom situation. But we do also have things that we can email you all. Just provide some how to support grieving students. We do have a presentation that we can adapt for like 20 minutes to like an hour about supporting students. And there's also something called the Coalition for Grieving Students. I believe that's the term of it. And what it is it houses a just ton of pieces of information for supporting students, supporting families, supporting administrators during a time of, you know, a death in the community, providing teachers, there's tips for parents. So there's a whole bunch of different, is another way that I would provide. And so I can put that into the chat.
Thank you so much.
Yes, of course. Any others?
Well, I'm going to ditto what Lenore said about the rooms. I mean, it was just immediate, like warm fuzzies, you know, from start to finish. I think you guys did a great job on the themes selected for those age groups and the idea of just the smells of warm cookies. I mean, it's like that visceral reaction as soon as you said it. So that's wonderful. Can you speak more to the closure process, since you said the groups are really tight knit and they are with each other for that 8 weeks? How do you, I guess, tie up things in a nice neat bow for them at the end of their sessions?
Yeah. So one of the things I didn't mention is that our groups are closed, so they're not going to be opened up to additional people as well. During the first week, we actually start with an opening ceremony. We have a wall where families can hang up a picture of their loved one, and they go up and they, we light a candle and they say that they're attending Kidzcope in memory of whoever their loved one is. Really setting the intention for the work that they're about to do. And then we also have, during week 8, we have what we call a closing ceremony. So they get about 45 minutes of time in their rooms to really just close it out with their group. We're talking, regardless of if you're in the 3-year-old room or the adult room, we're talking about, different feelings about, the fact that this group is ending. We're discussing next steps. We're discussing, other resources or supports in the area. Like I said, that death has a ripple effect of other losses, like especially financial ones. So helping families also get information to be able to help them with their next steps to maybe alleviate some of the stressors. In our closing ceremony, we bring everybody together, similar to the beginning. They write on, they respond to a question to create our book. Let me grab real quick. So they respond to the question of, they get a heart-shaped stone and write their initials on one side and their loved one's initials on the other side, and discuss what the heart-shaped stone represents with them completing Kidzcope, and along with, how the fact that going through the Kidzcope program is not only, honoring, of course, yourself, but it's also, honoring your loved ones and your family. And it's taking the time to be able to, intentionally go through it. And it can be tough. We are getting into it that first week. We're sharing about the stories of, our loved ones. And from there, it's not just entirely focused on that. We're, learning these different coping skills. We're learning how to do things. We're learning how to, the adults might make a list of things that they can put on their not to do list, just different things like that. And so what they create that stays here at Kidzcope is this collection of hearts books, and each group has one, so if they ever want to come back and take a look at it, the families each write a letter essentially, and then they place it into their jar. And then in our main space on the chalkboard, they write messages of hope for the next groups that will be coming through. And they get to take home all the art that they do, all the coping mechanisms. The younger ages learn something. They do an activity called feeling worms, which look like bees. They're essentially little sock worms that we find them, they'll have conversations with them. They're just nice to squish as like a stress ball or to hug. They make stress balls. Older kids work through that metaphorical art, making masks of feelings on the outside versus the inside. And so being very kind of intentional about that. But the goal is to teach them all the skills to be able to have them feel more confident at week 8. Now, they're not going to come through week 8 and be like, all right, I have no more grief. That's not how it works. We're a guiding hand. We're helping support that family, especially, if it was a more recent death, helping really kind of get that basis, that foundation laid to help them continue to have conversations at home, because we don't want them just to have the conversation here. We want them to feel comfortable to, cry, to feel any feeling. It's okay to be super mad about something. It's okay to feel, it's okay to feel happy, even when a death has happened. And that's something that oftentimes, kids and adults might feel guilty about. But during that last week, they're able to, they can be placed on our email list. We do offer just different activities, sometimes like little drop-in sessions, during the summer, sometimes we offer to our former members different classes or workshops, self-care, things like that. And then we do also offer a summer camp. However, the summer camp is only offered to those who have already attended the Kidzcope program. And so we can help get kids back together and have, meet some other kids and be comfortable. We do things around the holidays. So there are other ways to stay connected after they leave. And like I said, it's not a one and done. They can come back through at another point if they need to, or if they just need some support. We've got tons of children's book resources that deal with grief. That's kind of what we're here for as well.
Great, thank you. Take a moment. Does anyone else have any questions or thoughts?
Real quick, I am going to pop that Kidzcope video, the YouTube link into the chat. It's like it's not even a little less than 3 minutes long. I highly recommend you just take the next 3 minutes and watch it. I apologize that I wasn't able to get it to work. I don't know what was going on with that, but it does just a beautiful job at explaining it. It does it so eloquently and shows, some footage within the program. And so I just really would recommend you take a look at it. And like I said, if you're able to get my contact information, or if you want it, please let me know, and I can also pass that out as well.
All right. Well, great. Thank you again, Sarah. This information was so beneficial. I'm curious, and maybe I'll just follow up with you later about the type of referrals that you do receive or where your referrals come from, because I can see school-based resources, SROs maybe, but I'm just, curious to see where this all goes. So with that being said, I'm just going to take a few moments to kind of tie this up and share a few updates regarding the Kansas Volunteer Commission. All right, so we do have, we're actually halfway through the year with our mini grant series, and we're currently looking at the social justice capacity building. I believe we did finish that one up. So that grant period has already started, but then the next one we're looking at is the 9/11 National Day of Service. So for more information on that, it's a grant opportunity for up to $5,000 to support any sort of service projects that your program would like to implement. And it is a grant match. So more information for that, just email us at volunteer@ksde.org. And then, of course, our webinar series with Minds is the first Thursday at 1, and then we have volunteer engagement. That's the second Tuesday at 10 a.m. and then civic engagement webinar every third Friday at noon. So if you haven't already registered, here's some links. And then again, I will share this information out. So that way, if you haven't, you'll have that for you. All right, in my next webinar, our guest speaker is Alicia Walker. She's the CEO of Hearts, which is helping empower adolescents reject thoughts of suicide. She is going to be talking about building resilience in our youth. And currently she works at, I believe, Shawnee Mission School District, working on a curriculum for them. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going and if she has any updates about that curriculum to share. And other ways you can connect with us. If you want to go to our website, you'll find more information about all of our mini grant opportunities, as well as the webinars at canserve.org. If you haven't, please sign up for our newsletter. That's where we share all of our upcoming events, any sort of pertinent information. And you can also invite us to do presentations. Like I said, we cover civic engagement, volunteer engagement, mentoring, and then you can also get on our social media and find updates that way as well. And then here is my contact information in case you don't already have it. All right, any final thoughts or questions? And thank you, Sarah, again, for sharing your contact information in the chat. And I do look forward to watching that video once we wrap up.
Yes, of course. And thank you all for letting me come and speak a little bit.
All right, with that being said, thank you guys so much for joining me again, and I hope to see you at the next one. All right, well, enjoy the rest of your week, guys.
Thank
Take
you.
care.